Hi, I'm Kirsty. I've been super lucky to live in Kenya for the past 3 years, and in that time I've tried to explore as much of the country as I could, which means I've had some incredible experiences and met some absolutely amazing people, and I wanted to share my adventures. So today we're going to Lamu, but it's Lamu with a twist. We're going back in time to 50 years ago. And although I was a little bit surprised to find myself there, I think I made quite a quick recovery, and then I set about exploring the old town. And maybe you're wondering where I got these old photos from, or why I'm hopscotching around Lamu half a century ago. Well, they were taken by my mum and dad when they visited Lamu in 1976. And I wanted to follow in their footsteps, although I'm sure they were not doing hopscotch. And in the original of this photo, my mum is actually standing where I am here. And although she looks so beautiful and amazing, she did not want to be in my video. So I rubbed her out and I just put myself there instead. Okay, I think that's enough jumping around through time though. So let's go back to reality and I'll tell you how I really got there. I flew from Nairobi to Manda Island, where Lamu Airport is, with Jambo Jet, which I just love the name of that airline, and then got on a boat. And if you're staying in Lamu town, you can stop at the port there, but I was actually staying in a place called Shella. And the harbour is a little bit frenetic with a lot of boats, but luckily the place I was staying at had someone with a sign telling me where to go and which boat to get on. And then we went on this wonderful windy speedboat ride across the waterway. That's the hotel. It's called Peponi Hotel. And oh my goodness, it's so amazing. For starters, they got my name right. And I don't know how this happened, but for some reason I was put in their best room. I genuinely don't know why. I think it was maybe the only one that was left. And also maybe it was because it was the rainy season, so there was more availability. But it hardly rained at all, and it was just wonderful. I was just on my own, and I had all of this space with this wonderful balcony and this amazing view of the Indian Ocean. There was a kitchen, and really, I was just filming this at the time to give my mum and dad a virtual tour of the place I was staying at. So sorry that my stuff is all over the place, but I laughed when I heard what I said to them, because in the voiceover I'm like, you can go up into the bathroom from either side of the bed. And you can also look at the ocean while you're showering, because there's no bathroom door. Then that night I went on a sunset boat ride on a dhow, and it was just spectacular. We sailed past the mangrove swamps, and the experience of being on this beautiful boat was so serene and calming. And again, I was suffering severely from horizon deprivation from being in Nairobi for so long, so it was just wonderful to be out in this vast expanse of the ocean. And I was on this boat with another person who was traveling on their own, and it was so nice because at the hotel they had said that maybe it wouldn't be possible for me to go because you have to have a minimum of 2 people, but then they found someone else, and so off we went. It was really nice. The other person was lovely, and we had sundowners and just watched the sunset as we sailed on the blue sea. Oh, it was so cool. And Peponi is a family-run hotel, and I thought it was so nice because the daughter of the original owners came around all the tables to speak to the guests, including me, and I was just there on my own. I wasn't an important person, I wasn't somebody with children. I just thought it was so lovely, and she was super nice and just wanted to make sure everyone was okay and to acknowledge them, and it was really nice to be acknowledged. Then the next morning I woke up to this amazing sunrise, and I went for breakfast with a beach view, and then I went to explore Shella, the town where Peponi Hotel is. And what a lovely place. Everyone was so friendly, and they were not pushy. You could just walk into the shops and have a look around and they would welcome you. There were lots of donkeys. You saw them wandering around the streets or keeping cool in an alleyway, or sometimes they were on duty doing some work, and that's because the streets are too narrow for cars to go through. So donkeys are the only means of transport in this part of the island. It was really interesting, and it was also really nice to see that there are water troughs for the donkeys when they're walking around, and it was also so cool to see like regular donkey life, like this little baby waiting for its mum. Then I wandered down to the beach and I saw some dhows being built, and I ended up having a lovely chat with one of the owners. It was super interesting because he told me how much they cost, and if you happen to have 2.8 million Kenyan shillings up your sleeve, then you could be the proud owner of a beautiful dhow. And maybe the price has even gone up since I was there, but it's about £16,400, I think. So definitely not cheap. And also he explained how they're made. So they're made from mahogany and teak, and then the curved skeleton is made from mangrove branches. Then these two things really made me laugh. I was like, gosh, I hope they're off to build a sandcastle. And then I saw a donkey being pulled by its legs into the ocean to have a bath. And I just found it so funny because I'd never seen anything like that before. And I'm sure it's just normal everyday life in Lamu. But where I come from, you don't see donkeys every day. Then that evening I went for a long walk on the beautiful white sandy beach next to the hotel. Then I woke up with the sun the next morning and watched it rise over the Indian Ocean. It was so beautiful. Then I had another delicious breakfast, and then I got in a boat to go on a tour of Lamu town itself. And this was everything that I had hoped for. Wandering through the streets, seeing all these beautiful doorways that Lamu is so famous for, and then getting to go and see the people that are actually making them. Oh, it was so interesting. And also just reflecting back on the craftsmanship of creating the dhows as well. Everything was so intricate, but it was so nice because I plucked up the courage to ask my guide if he would mind looking at my photos to see if we could try and find the locations where they were taken. And he was so interested. Seeing Lamu 50 years ago, he was like, oh, I think I know where that is. So we had a lot of fun. And it was also nice because anytime we went into a shop, he would be like, oh, show the shopkeeper those photos. And then they would sit and be like, oh, I think that's that place. Everybody was so nice and so interested, and I was not expecting that at all because I was a complete stranger asking these questions out of the blue. But everyone seemed to agree that this street where the little boy is walking is actually where now Coco Jumbo is. So that was really cool. Then I loved the name of that shop. And this street, I thought it might be this one. And this doorway, I think it might be this one. And we did manage to find the pier where my mum was standing in the original photo, but the other ones I really don't know, and my guide and the other people that we spoke to were also stumped by those. So if anyone from Lamu happens to be watching and knows where any of those locations are, that would be so cool. And as well as my time-traveling escapades, I loved learning about the history of the town and how it was constructed, the burnt coral that's used. Everything was fascinating, and I would love to learn more. Unfortunately, my tour didn't include going into the museum, but I would definitely like to go back and have a look around there. We did go to the market though, and it was so funny because my guide met his niece there and they started having an argument with the fishmonger about what kind of tuna it was, and they were like, it's not yellowfin. So I had a wonderful time in Lamu. I'm not really a person that likes lying on the beach. I much prefer exploring places, looking around, meeting people, so I got to do all of that and more. For me, the best thing about the beach is walking barefoot in the sand. And the beach at Shella is so long that you can do that for hours. And I'm sure there are places you can go partying in Lamu if you want to, but all I wanted to do was walk on the beach, look at the horizon and soak in the stunning sunsets. It soothed my soul so much. And one thing that I recall when I first arrived was that somebody said to all the tourists coming off the boats, "Welcome to the island." And I was like, God, I'm not sure if he's being sarcastic or not, but I'm gonna hope that he's just super welcoming. And I do think that that's the overall impression that I got of Lamu. Everybody was so nice, so friendly, so happy. It wasn't like tourists were just seen as a way of making money. It seemed like life was just going on like normal around us. Then, sadly, it was time for me to go home, but on my last night I started laughing again because I got overtaken by two children riding on the back of a donkey, and I just thought it was the most delightful ending to my holiday. Thank you so much to everyone in Lamu for making me feel so welcome, and thank you for watching. See you in the next one.